Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're doing something a little different. We're tearing through the front pages of our world right now, May 2026, to expose the massive, sometimes unbelievable contradictions that are defining our current era. From the economy to tech and health policy, the data on paper is just violently clashing with reality on the ground.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll be covering 1. The puzzling economic picture, 2. AI, tech, and security, 3. Shifting health policy leadership, 4. Domestic political battles, and finally, a really bizarre trend happening on Broadway. All right, let's jump right in.
Section 1. The puzzling economic picture, jobs versus sentiment. Right now, the hard data punted on paper and the actual mood of the people walking down the street are living in two completely different realities.
Is the big paradox setting the stage for everything else we're tracking today? I mean, the job market remains remarkably resilient, yet the public mood? It's sinking like a stone. So why are Americans feeling so incredibly bad about a supposedly good economy?
Just look at this massive disconnect. We saw an unexpected gain of 115,000 jobs in April, completely blowing past forecasts. But at the exact same time, the University of Michigan Consumer Sentiment Index literally crashed down to 48.2. That is worse than the post-pandemic inflation spikes. So what's going on? Well, it turns out that war-fueled gas prices and this looming AI anxiety are just completely overshadowing the traditional metrics.
And when you dive beneath the surface, it's really a tale of two economies. It's so wildly uneven. Healthcare and social assistance are just vacuuming up workers, adding nearly 54,000 jobs. But the information and tech sector, it actually bled 13,000 jobs, mainly because companies are freezing their hiring to integrate AI. Basically, if you're in healthcare, it's a massive boom. But if you're in tech, it feels like you're already in a recession.
Moving into Section 2, AI, tech, and security, where innovation meets intervention. Let's look at how heavy government intervention is directly colliding with private innovation. Take Intel's big turnaround, for example. They had fallen badly behind their foreign rivals. But track this timeline with me. We fast forward from Lip Butan taking over as CEO in the spring of 2025 to the federal government actually taking a 10% stake via a massive $9 billion grant that summer, leading right up to a historic preliminary manufacturing deal with Apple in May 2026. This wasn't just the free market doing its thing, It was a corporate marriage heavily engineered by the administration's strategic pressure.
Meanwhile, down at the southern border, that exact same intersection of federal funding and tech is completely transforming the landscape. Driven by over $170 billion in security funding, we are seeing rapid deployments of autonomous drones, camouflage towers, and AI systems that literally place digital bounding boxes around individuals in real time. They're assessing threats from miles away.
Now, the government touts these systems as highly efficient, basically invisible walls. But for civil liberties advocates, it is a massive red flag. As the ACLU's Jay Stanley points out, there's this fierce political will to seal the border, and it's converging with novel AI to create a genuinely unprecedented surveillance apparatus. It seems like every major technological leap is bringing an equally profound privacy crisis right along with it.
All right, Section 3. Shifting health policy leadership, turmoil, and teamwork. This is where domestic fracturing sits right alongside some very vital international coordination.
Domestically, the FDA is essentially at war with itself right now. The administration is reportedly preparing to oust its very own appointed chief, Commissioner Marty Makary. And if you're wondering why, well, take your pick. There are intense clashes over flavored vaping bans, drug policy disagreements, deep friction over abortion pill approvals, and just the sheer chaos of rapid DOGE-led agency layoffs. The agency's leadership is fracturing at the exact moment when public health oversight is absolutely critical.
And it's critical because, while Washington battles internally, a very real crisis is brewing right off the coast of Spain. A rare person-to-person strain of hantavirus, which is a family of viruses usually carried by rodents, has actually struck the cruise ship MV Hondios, and that is demanding immediate, coordinated global action. Which brings us to the wild irony of the whole situation. Remember, earlier this year, the U.S. formally withdrew from the World Health Organization. Yet, as we speak, U.S. CDC experts are forced to coordinate with the WHO on an almost daily basis to contain this outbreak. It just goes to show that when a deadly virus threatens international waters, scientists have to bypass the political theater and just work together.
Moving on to Section 4, domestic political battles and the map of power. Back on U.S. soil, the maps that determine the balance of power are being aggressively redrawn and challenged.
And it all comes down to this incredibly razor-thin margin, 218 to 212. With control of the House literally hanging by a thread, these local, state-level redistricting fights have suddenly become the absolute most important national battlegrounds we have.
Just take a look at the major ruling that came out of Virginia. In a super tight 4-3 decision, the state Supreme Court actually threw out a Democrat-led redistricting map, which freezes the current map in place for the 2026 midterms. This is a massive victory for Republicans trying to protect that narrow edge, and it proves that the real battle for Washington is actually being fought right inside state courtrooms.
All right, finally, Section 5, a bizarre Broadway trend, laughing at trauma. Let's take a look at how all this macroeconomic and political stress is sort of bubbling up into our everyday culture.
In what might be the absolute perfect metaphor for a highly anxious society, Broadway has a very, very strange phenomenon on its hands right now. During deeply traumatic, incredibly serious moments in plays like Job, audiences are inexplicably just howling with laughter. It's wild. The tension of the outside world is so high that when people sit down in the dark of a theater, their wires are simply crossing. It's like this massive, involuntary release valve.
Which leaves us with this final burning thought. We are living in an era of profound contradiction. I mean, we have job growth, but we feel broke. We fund incredible tech innovation while deploying borderline dystopian surveillance. We politically exit global health only to medically rely on it days later. And we are literally laughing in the face of tragedy. So, if the hard data says we're thriving, but our sentiment is crashing to the floor, are we all just nervously laughing through 2026? How these paradoxes ultimately break is going to define the rest of our decade. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, stay curious.